All right, cool. Casey with CoolVu.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, brother. Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
it.
in. It's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, so how we usually start these is, well, I just learned a really cool fact that I want to dig into, but we usually just go, let's get your background, here, where you're from, what brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
The conversations usually just go so cool from there because everybody has such a diverse background before they get into home services. It feels like no one starts that way, but that's also what makes home services great, right? Because it's purposely been chosen after having a whole career. So, where are you from? Name, company? How'd you get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so my company is CoolVu of Nashville. I'm originally from New Hampshire. Grew up in New Hampshire. Spent a lot of time in New Hampshire.
Nice.
Background would be, I worked in television 15 years running cameras. Yeah.
You were schooling us up on our cameras, asking questions I had no idea.
Basic questions. Nothing crazy. The show Nashville, that's how I ended up down here in Tennessee.
Oh, so you worked like the camera stuff for that?
Yeah. So I
cool.
was a digital imaging technician, so I pretty much handled all the media we shot. So technically, almost every like penny they spent on that show trickled through my fingers. So it was kind of fun. But essentially, I was in the camera truck most of the time, just running back and forth, setting up cameras, grabbing media, making sure it all had no errors, sending it off to post.
Oh, that's cool.
That's essentially what I did.
So you went from they would film it, you'd be watching it, making sure everything looked good, send that raw footage over to post, and then they would do their thing.
Essentially, yes.
That's cool. How'd you get into that?
So that's a whole nother. So grew up in New Hampshire, went to college, gonna be graphic designer, painter at one point. Then I was like, I'm going to spending all this money on my college career. Is like art really make that much sense?
Right.
So anyway, I get done with college. I'm kind of interning with an ad agency, and my buddy says, "Hey, I'm going out to New Zealand to work on a vineyard for a little while. You want to come?" And I was like, "Yes."
To work on a vineyard in New Zealand?
Yes.
so cool,
I more or less dropped everything, walked away from the internship with the ad agency, moved to New Zealand, ended up in New Zealand and Australia for 5 years. When I was out there, ended up in the film industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was New Zealand and Australia like? How'd you like living out there?
Loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
What brought you back?
So I came back for a buddy's wedding with every intention to go back to New Zealand, but stopped in LA to meet some people, and I got a job offer. So I ended up staying in LA rather than going back to New Zealand. It was kind of like a hayride. Like I met this guy, Michael Lohman. He said, "Hey, I might need a PA, camera PA." It's like it's kind of like me taking a giant step backwards, and I was like, but it's also a step in the door.
Right.
Like LA versus New Zealand.
The film industry is quite
Huge.
different. Yeah.
So I sat around for a week waiting for him to call me. Getting up to my flight, going back to New Zealand, like deadline, like 24 hours. Do I push it back? Do I jump on the flight? I was like, push it back. Pushed it back, and literally like 3 hours after I spent like $500 changing the flight, he calls me and says, "Yeah, if you want the position, it's yours." So I was like, okay, great. $500 out the door, but now I got this position.
Right.
So I stayed out there, did a few shows. Harry's Law was the first show I worked on. It was like Kathy Bates, Warner Brothers Law. It was
cool.
like first job in LA. It was cool.
Yeah.
So did that for a while. Ended up in New Orleans with these guys, and eventually, we got a call to go do Nashville season 2, and we did the whole run from season 2 to season 6 from there.
Damn.
Yeah.
So what made you get out of the industry after season 6 of Nashville?
Well, I stayed in it. I was still going. I was doing.
Oh, cool. So what'd you do after that?
So the transition from film to CoolVu was, writer strikes keep coming up, and industry strikes, and the film industry is peaks and valleys. You're working 6 months, 9 months in television, and then maybe you take 3 months, 6 months off, or maybe you miss the whole circuit and you're out for a year. So it was constantly like you make some money, you feel comfortable,
You drain
and
that
then
shit.
you spend your money while you wait for the next show. So
Yikes.
you can get ahead,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it's like, just barely making it by.
Seems like very gig work type.
That's exactly
industry.
what it is. Exactly what it is. So ultimately, I was seeing the writer strike coming down the pipe in 2023. And I said to myself and my girlfriend, my partner, and we were like, during COVID, we talked about this a lot. We need another avenue.
Yeah.
So like if ever there was a time, let's do it. So December 22, just started looking for businesses we could try to transition into.
Nice. And then you opened CoolVu when?
It was June
of 23?
2022.
22. So you just
So
congrats
we
on 2 years.
we just yeah. Well, 23. Sorry, 23. Yes.
So
we're just hit 1 year.
Congrats. That's
1 year in
huge.
the business.
1 year's terrifying.
Yeah.
So
A lot of learning curves.
Yeah. So your life has been completely different for the last year.
Yeah.
So let's talk about CoolVu. Why, before we get into the business itself, what other industries were you looking at? What drove you to CoolVu? What drove you to the franchise? What drove you to a franchise?
So my partner Johanna, she's director of marketing, and for her past life, she handled franchisees for Arby's and for Tropical Smoothie.
Ah.
So she has a pretty good understanding of how the franchise system worked. So like from the beginning, we're thinking franchise. 1, she has the background in it. 2, supposedly in a franchise, you're buying into everybody's knowledge and a system that's been put together. So like entry level, to learn, to move up, seems like a good, easy, smooth transition.
Right.
I don't have much of a business background, art major.
Right.
So here we are.
Art major.
Yeah. Business maybe would have been a good minor. You know? Ultimately, the art thing helps because, window film.
Honestly.
You got attention to detail.
Big time, dude.
You got to be able to cut straight lines, all these things.
I actually, when you mentioned art earlier, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it actually follows over pretty well.
Yeah.
Maybe not the knowledge, but the skill. The skill does.
Yes.
So that's why you were definitely drawn to a franchise. I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, we were looking at like buying property and doing Airbnbs. We talked. There was in Chattanooga. There was like a cabin and boating place we maybe thought about buying into. We looked at like a pet service business.
Oh, cool.
Like
a pet grooming or
pet walking.
Yeah.
Type thing. And then another one we looked at, which was kind of interesting, is a company called Shrink 3D. And essentially, and there was a gentleman in town that actually bought this franchise. We didn't do it at the time, but he did now. Anyway, they do, it's a photo booth, 3-dimensional 3D cameras all around you. And it takes essentially a 3D shot of you when you're in costume, and you make your own action figure.
Oh.
It's like an 8-inch to like a 12 or 13-inch action figure.
That's cool.
And that seemed cool. And they had like a deal with the military. So we thought, oh yeah, Campbell's right up the street.
Oh, that's cool.
Might be a good little maneuver. But ultimately, as I drove around Nashville, what's happening in Nashville has been happening for 10 years. They're building.
Yep.
Everywhere you build, you see glass. Glass everywhere.
You should be covered.
Advertising on glass, hot glass, You're getting sunburned through your glass.
Mm-hmm.
So people were breaking into glass. Crime's a thing. So there are all these little areas, and like it just kept checking all the boxes that CoolVu had for products to offer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think that was probably, at least in Nashville, it's an easier sell.
Yeah.
And you're selling, your product is a need, right? And I love businesses where you're selling a need.
Yeah.
Instead of a want.
So it's a need and it's a want. It is a need. Most people don't realize they need it.
Right.
And that's something that we're trying to people don't realize. Sun passes right through your glass. UV goes right through onto your skin.
Yep.
Melanoma is a thing.
Yeah.
There's studies in New York where, they took away car tint, a certain level of car tint. They had a drastic increase in melanoma.
Whoa.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that
you don't
is
even think
crazy.
about it.
Because a lot of people spend a lot of time in their cars.
Yeah.
And when you're going to drive, the last thing you think of is maybe I
Right.
need some sunscreen on my arm.
Exactly.
You just don't think of it.
So translates right over to your home. You sit in your dining room in the morning, having your breakfast, sun's just beating down on you.
Yep.
Translates right over.
All right, so let's get into it. So CoolVu, what are your services? And then we can kind of just go from there. But let's let the people know. Let's educate them.
Yeah, so our services. So we specialize really in solar film is our main thing, just removing UV and IR heat.
And that's applied directly to the window.
Yep, goes on. Generally, 90% of the time, it's on the inside of the window because it lasts longer. Our films have lifetime warranty, residential, 15-year, commercial generally. They're a little different. Depends on the film.
Right.
We have decorative films for privacy. We have normal films for privacy, security films to stop glass breakage. Film, a lot of people call it tint.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be tinted.
Okay.
I have perfectly clear films that will go on your window and remove like 90% of the heat coming in that window.
It does the same thing as what tint historically does.
Yeah.
Okay, so you stick to just homes, right? Cars?
Let's back that up a little bit.
Okay.
I said 90%. That's a little bit of a high number.
Okay. My man. 99.9.
Yeah, 99.9. That
9 out of 10 dentists
yeah.
recommend.
So like UV protecting, we're like 99.9%. Like all the films these days are like on the UV level.
Yep.
On the IR level, that's really your heat spectrum that goes through your windows.
Yep.
You're looking at like, 70, over 70, almost 80% heat reduction with a clear film.
That's incredible. I imagine this does a lot to like your AC bill, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's got to significantly increase the effectiveness of your HVAC system.
So it's a hard number to quantify because of how much savings you get, because everyone has a different size house. Everyone has a different size HVAC unit.
Right.
So what is that number? Typically, you're looking at maybe like a 5 to 8 years for it to pay for itself.
Okay.
Is what I understand.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, dude, that's something we talk about a lot is, preventative maintenance, extending the life of those products. So if you're doing some preventative maintenance on your HVAC system, which no one does, things like cleaning it annually, maybe biannually, and then changing your filters on a regular basis, probably monthly or quarterly, depending on your system.
How many cats you got?
Yeah, exactly. How often do you clean? And then if you add in some of this tint, you're talking about significantly increasing the life of some of the most expensive pieces of your home that you have to replace.
I had to do a whole HVAC, AC unit, heating unit last year, and it was not cheap.
Yeah, at your house?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, dude. Yeah, it's incredible. So you've got the product that protects from, sun in. Let's talk about the safety aspect of the one that kind of prevents – I'm not going to call it bulletproof, right?
That's right.
You've definitely taught me that.
Yeah.
What's the safety aspect of it, and who's looking to apply that? Who's kind of the customer for that?
So security film. Some people call it shatterproof film. Some people like to call it ballistic film, but film has no ballistic qualities to it. What you're talking about when you're like glass actually has some ballistic qualities to it. So like really any film that's going on a window that's making it ballistic. If the glass is ballistic, you're just holding that glass together. So film goes on window. Essentially, you're laminating the window, holding it together. So like a rock, bullet, a hammer, hits your window. The window will break, but it all stays together because the film's holding it together.
Gotcha. So it reduces like the shatter aspect.
Yes.
Which can be dangerous.
Right. So like in home services, people are building homes all over the place, right? You have certain codes you have to hit. So on the residential area, windows that are in a certain distance from stairs
right.
or off the ground. I think it's 18 inches and above. You don't have to worry about it. But if you have a window that's closer than 18 inches to the ground, you need either tempered glass, safety glass, or you can use security film. 4 mil security film hits code.
Oh, that's cool. So a good partner there is probably some builders for you.
Yeah.
Do you know any in town?
I know a couple.
Can you introduce me?
Absolutely.
They're great partners.
Yeah.
Are you working with any like new builds and applying before?
No, not really. That would be a great relationship. Right now, what happens is generally someone's built a house and the code guys come in, the inspectors come in and said, hey, that's not the right type of window. Security film or get a new window. Well, security film is exponentially cheaper than going for a new
and timeline. I imagine.
Oh yeah, timeline too.
Different.
Oh yeah,
because you can get out. Are you a week out maybe?
Depends on the scenario. Like if it's in the vicinity of where I'm going as one window, I'll roll it into my schedule and can usually knock it out within the week.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for the builder, there you go. Okay. I have to rip all these out, spend a ton of money, probably wait 6 weeks to get them delivered, or I can call CoolVu and depending on the quantity, where it's at, type, all that, maybe a week or two, and we're done.
I try to keep everything within a 2-week timetable when I can.
Nice. What else about your product do you want homeowners to know?
So a lot of new builds these days, windows really aren't up to like an energy spec. Even though they might be a low E window, it's really not doing a whole lot for you. So like adding window film to the window will make your energy better, help your home be more energy efficient, which is huge.
Yeah.
Back on the security side of things, most security film I have is clear, but I do have matte finished security films. So like builders, for whatever reason, architects, there seems to be this trend where windows are going in bathrooms, in front of showers, in front of toilets with your neighbor. There's a Nashville problem where your houses are all built on top of each other. Well, it's the same house.
Yep.
So essentially, you can be taking a pee in your bathroom and looking at your neighbor taking a pee in his bathroom. And I see it all the time. And they say, hey, well, I have a code issue with this window. Well, I can put security film on there that is matte finish, so no one can see through it, giving you privacy. Or I can put a decorative film on there if you don't need the security film and give you privacy. Glass front doors is a big thing, especially out in Trinity Lane, Dickerson Pike, just saying that little area.
I live off of Trinity Lane.
How do you have a glass door?
No, I actually live off of Buena Vista.
Okay.
So if you keep following Trinity west, then it turns into Buena Vista. And there's probably I probably need some security, at least on my on the windows that are closer to the ground. But
I mean, unfortunately, there is a homeless population that kind of traverses that whole area.
Yeah.
But there's condos, these brand new, beautiful condos, glass doors.
Yep.
Glass windows, all at the ground level.
Then there is a significant number of commercial builds that are going up over there in my area that definitely need that because they've already had some that have been broken into.
Yeah. So like on the residential aspect of things, security film can only go so far because you can't bind it to the window frames because the window frames often are just, they're not steel frames or aluminum frames. Usually they're plastic frames. On the commercial side of things, you have commercial grade window frames that are aluminum, and we take a Dow 995 Corning adhesive and we bind the film to the window frame, really kind of structurally making it a much stronger system.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then you can even sandwich it. You can do film on the outside, film on the inside. That's what a lot of schools are doing, which is kind of interesting, just sandwiching the glass.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of use cases for this too. It's not just about like ballistic resistance.
No, I mean,
we had a rock. The landscaper shot a rock through our front door here at the office. I mean, same, and it shattered everywhere. So same thing there.
Tornadoes. Tornadoes coming through. Tornadoes throw rocks, debris all over the place. I mean, Florida's known about security film for a long time. Security film came about because of a bombing in London. I think it was the 70s. So it's been around for a while, but I mean, hurricanes have been hitting Florida for how long? They've been putting security film on houses down there for a long time.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's just kind of hitting up here now.
Where did CoolVu start?
So CoolVu franchise is based out of Marietta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a company, FutureView brand with Window Film Depot is kind of like part of our little umbrella. And then when you're talking ballistics, we have another company, Impact Securities, and they actually have true ballistic. Essentially, it's shields for your glass. It's a polycarbonate product that goes, and it's commercial based.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and that's we have Riot, like literally going to keep anybody out of your building, like Riot low end protection. Then we have level 1 through level 7 on the bullet side of things. So 9mm out to 5.56.
Damn.
Yeah.
And that's the sister company that's underneath the parent company that also owns CoolVu.
Yes.
Okay, cool. How many locations you guys have?
We have 2 locations ourselves.
Nice. And is that split North and South Nashville, or how does that work?
So there's 2 franchisees in Nashville. So there's Steve and Mary Cox, who have CoolVu of Middle Tennessee, and they are south. So Brentwood, Franklin, Murfreesboro.
Gotcha.
And they have that whole area. And then me and Johanna have essentially North Nashville, pretty much the nations, going all the way out to Lebanon.
Cool.
And then up to like Gallatin.
Gotcha.
But then, there's a whole bunch of gray area that we can be as well.
So your contract allows you to you can't operate within their area, but you can operate anywhere else.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Downtown's a free for all, Wild West.
Oh, really?
So that's fun. Yep.
Did they do that on purpose, the franchise?
Yeah.
They were like, hey, just go get they want to encourage, just go get the business.
Yeah. So also
like
downtown also is like where your biggest buildings are.
Yeah.
Franchisees starting out, possibly, you don't really have the manpower to deal with something that big. I think a little bit with them keeping the small little downtown sections open is that you can really you can leverage Window Foam Depot, who's one of our partners, to help bring them in to tackle bigger projects.
Okay, got it. Nice.
Yeah.
That's incredible for the assistance from the franchise. I mean, that.
Yeah.
If I was a franchisee, I'd be happy about that option.
I mean, it literally makes it so there's no contract that's too big.
Right.
Even
just being a young company, you can handle a huge commercial project.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That sets you aside from like the local mom and pop guys too.
Yeah.
Now, what's the competition like in this industry? Who are you don't have to name them. We don't want to give them any credit, but like,
competition's actually it's tight. So like for a long,
I think that would surprise people.
Yeah. So there's one big company out of California that's kind of coming in, or been here for there was a mom and pop shop in town that was very been around for like 23 years or something like that.
Oh wow!
And recently sold to a California company. So now they're here, and then there's a couple other I say most of the companies like to call them. I like to think of myself as a mom and pop.
Yeah.
I'm an owner operator. I run, even though I have a franchise, they really don't do much for me on the marketing side of things or in any kind of capacity. I can, bring them in, but it costs money.
Yep.
So I'm mostly on my own, my team. And then, so I don't know, there's like 5 or 6 fairly good sized companies to compete with. Plus you have guys that did auto tint for a long time and now are realizing they can do homes as well. So you have a little bit of that going around.
Gotcha. Okay. You made a good point there and we've talked about it a couple times here, is we want to make sure that homeowners know a franchise is still a locally owned and operated business. I think sometimes people go, well, they're a franchise, I don't want to use them. It's like,
I've lost business because I said I was a franchise.
Right. And I don't understand that at all, right? Because prices are still probably very similar.
Yep.
If not better, because franchises sometimes get some purchasing power that mom and pops don't. Mm-hmm. But also, you're a local guy. You own and operate the business. You live here. You're part of the community. It's not some conglomerate coming in. Now, if you're talking about like a McDonald's or something like that, it's way different, right? Humongous difference there. But as a small franchise, it is every bit of a mom and pop as a traditional quote unquote mom and pop is.
Yeah.
Which is just something that I didn't know people didn't realize until I was involved in the businesses, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit confusing. Mm-hmm. So let's talk to the future business owner. Okay. What you did is, I tell everybody this, I really admire all the entrepreneur game. It's not one that's easy. It's terrifying, especially when you leave a job that's paying you a salary and you're pretty comfortable and you're doing all that. What was the deciding factor for you guys? I know we kind of touched on it. It was COVID. It was the ups and downs of the industry you were in previously. But, you could have done a lot of stuff. Why entrepreneurship? Why did you go into I want to be a business owner?
Ultimately, I was just kind of curious what it would be like to run my own business, honestly.
So you just worked for the man for too long?
Yeah. Yeah. I have. I've done a lot of business. I've done a lot of different things. I was a prep chef. I was a waiter, sous chef. I was, did lawn work. I was an arborist for a while, a viniculturist. I've worked advertising a little bit, so I've had my hands in a lot of things. And one thing I always kind of find is, people at the top, they kind of like, they don't always seem like they like are really paying attention to what is really needed. They just kind of arbitrarily kind of say, hey, go do this. Is that the best way to do it? No. I think I got a better way of doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be my own boss and just kind of like set things up as I think they should be.
Make the decisions.
Yeah,
That's
hopefully,
right,
hopefully I'm not going to become that guy
right. Yeah.
in the future. But you know,
fast forward 10 years, and one of your guys is sitting here like, man, he doesn't know what he's talking
yeah,
about.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No,
I'm excited for it.
I think that's super common, dude. It's like, you know, I think that's usually what spells success too.
Yeah.
People who've had a career or multiple careers prior to being a business owner, and then they can go, all right, I've seen the goods, I've seen the bads. I'm going to land right in the middle. I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And they can really have, you know, create the changes they want to create within their own business. What's your day-to-day as a business owner right now within the first year, right? The reason why I ask is I think it's a unique opportunity to talk to you 2 years ago, right? Whereas like every bit of business knowledge that I gained in my first year was from podcasts from guys that had already been there and done that years and years and years ago. It's all great information, but sometimes I found it hard to be applicable in my situation because I was running a truck. I was, you know, trying to run the business and very much so in the business. I was relying on myself for most everything. So a lot of that information didn't really apply. So talk through your day-to-day right now. What's your main task? What keeps you up at night? What's difficult? What's fun? What do you love? What do you hate?
The thing that keeps me up at night is just replying back to all the emails. Man, a lot of emails.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time driving. So like my typical day, you know, like Mondays and Wednesdays are kind of like I try to make those my quote days for the most part. And then and I'll fill in any time I don't have for like installation for more quote time or just like networking. Okay. I try to network. Connect Nashville has been a good source of like meeting people in the area as well as BNI. I'm a member of BNI in Mount Juliet. So Vibe Tribe. There's a great community of people there as well. And I've learned a lot from these two groups. And I had a lot of opportunities because of these two groups. So like community, networking through the community, that's a big part of like my day-to-day, trying to fit that in. But like, you know, going out and do quotes. I try to make Tuesdays, Thursdays are really my big install days, with Fridays my kind of like my, I'll fill in whatever I can on a Friday. Yeah. But like I spend a lot of time driving. Yeah. It's not, I have a fairly good size territory. So if I'm driving, I'm certainly not sending emails. So what happens is by the time I get home at 5:30 at night, it's time to hit the keyboard, put quotes together, send emails out. Yeah. Next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock in the evening. I didn't go to the gym. Yep. Which, you know, I did manage to train for a marathon this year, which was awesome. Oh, and I did my first marathon, so that was cool. Sweet. But really, the thing I would like to have told myself a year ago is, you know, you got to make sure you have a schedule and stick to it. You know, 3 days a week, schedule 1 hour in the morning or whatever for a workout. Just do it. Make time. Yeah, have a cutoff time. Right now, I'm new. I'm excited. Someone calls me. I'm going to get down there and take care of them, even if it's going to mean I'm driving an hour out of my way when I was going to head home. Right. Usually. Yep. So all of a sudden, now I'm not getting home till like 6:37. I still do that. So call me now. I'm really gung ho. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Don't wait. I'm excited. Yeah. Exactly. Because in 5 years, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll get to you tomorrow. But there's a burnout. So like I am finding a year in where I've just kind of pushed and pushed and pushed. You gotta have to have cutoffs here and there. Yeah. We are coming off boundaries. We are coming off 4th of July, and I did purposely not schedule much on my Friday. Nice. Which was a nice little recap. Yep. So I had a 4-day weekend, kind of. Me and Lindsay were just talking about that. It was this week. This July 4th was the first time I had truly taken 4 days off of work. Didn't work. I mean, maybe some emails, but like didn't work in probably 5 years. It felt really, really strange, but it felt pretty good too. And I was surprised because 5 years prior, or any year prior, that actually would have stressed me out more not working than taking time off. Like that's what I think sometimes people look at entrepreneurs and don't understand that. It's not like that you have to work or you maybe even want to work. I think sometimes that's what reduces a lot of the stress that comes up, because most of the time that stress, that anxiety that happens with entrepreneurs is because you're not doing something that you probably know you should be doing. You know what I'm saying? It's like 100%. It's that. Well, I mean, you could think about any part of the day while I'm doing something, there's always something else I could be doing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and then you're always trying to weigh, like, is this the best use of my time?
Mm-hmm.
Should I hire somebody who can do this, and then I can do this? And it's just like constant gamble after gamble, and it's just all uncertainties, and you're just kind of continuously betting on yourself and your decisions, and relying on mentors and people who've been there before that, and podcasts and all that stuff. But ultimately, it's just kind of the business, and it's a gamble, and then you hope it pays out.
Yeah, I've been running the gamble. I've been throwing the dice. Dices are, they're coming up pretty good so far on the rolls.
Nice.
Business feels like it's moving definitely in the right direction. I'm busy.
Very nice.
I'm in a position where I'm like ready to like bring on like a full-time installer.
Yep.
And just have them like taking care of his stalls.
Yep.
Like and that's the big thing. I care a lot about my customer. I want to be there on every single job, but there is a point where I can only be in so many places at one time. So like that's like one of my biggest struggles right now with the company is how do I relinquish a little bit of control? So trying to find the right person right now that wants to come on board, can do a little bit of sales, can do some installation, someone who's not afraid of heights, because you got to be on ladder. That's a hard one. And not afraid of dogs, because residential has dogs sometimes.
Dude, I think that's a really, really common, at least it was for me. It was, I didn't think I had a problem relinquishing because I was so burnt out that I wanted to relinquish some stuff.
Yeah, you're ready.
I was like, get this out of here. And mainly that was like back office type stuff. It wasn't anything to do with the customer. It was, in our industry with restoration, it was collecting from insurance companies is a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Scheduling, calling customers, doing that type of stuff. It's like a 40-hour job a week. Yeah. And I was like, get this as far away from me as possible. Somebody I trust, somebody who's good at it, because it was my weakness. I'm unorganized. I didn't love talking to the insurance companies.
How many calls you make a day, you think?
Oh, my God, dude. I mean, the problem was I didn't make enough, and our accounts receivable stacked up. Yeah. So, like, we're doing all this work, and we're busy, and we're not collecting on it because it takes somebody all day, every day, reminding these insurance companies that they owe us money. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I got to get this off my plate. So that I was actually excited to get rid of. The stuff that I noticed was tough to get rid of was anything customer interaction. Right. Because that dealt with your product and the outcome of your product. Mm-hmm. And I remember when we first had like customer issues, it was shortly after I relinquished some of the control. And you all of a sudden had people on site where I wasn't there that might not have cared as much as I did. And then we had issues. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, what is this? We've never had this before. And then you're like, oh, it's because you don't have the owner on site who really cares about the outcome of the business.
We talked about that before in a past conversation, and I've talked with other people with the same thing. And that's one of the things I'm really trying to move forward as I look for this right person, is the right person who wants to be involved. And I know, someone I have to bring into the fold somehow as a partner or what it is, but like that's like they have to care about the business, the customer, as much as I care about the customer. Right. Otherwise, it's like, I have a pretty good, I got like 60 plus Google 5-star reviews right now. Nice. It's because I care. Yep. If there's a problem, I'll come back and fix it. No problem. Like things happen. Yep. Animal hair, it's in the air. Sometimes it gets in the film. Might be one up in the corner. You just didn't notice it because the sun was setting.
Yeah, those things are out of your control.
We take care of it.
Yep. Well, we talk about that all the time, man. And two things you've said here have been so consistent with other fantastic business owners. The number one is finding a community. Networking is going to how you're really going to get the balls rolling on your business. Mm-hmm. And number two is what you just said is mistakes will always happen. I think homeowners, customers, users, whoever your customer is in business understands mistakes are going to happen. Their concern is how are you going to deal with it. Right. It's always, okay, what now? And, what everybody has consistently said is, we're going to deal with it. Yeah. We're going to fix it. We're going to make the problem. We're going to solve the problem and try to make you still happy. Yeah. On the flip side, there are customers that you will never, ever be able to make happy.
This is true. And that is a difficult pill to swallow on the residential side.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because, dude, this business is so people say this business is not personal, but I kind of call BS on that. At a young business's age and, businesses like ours, it is personal. It's everything to us, right? We're putting, 80-hour, 90-hour weeks into this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it means everything. We're financially invested. We're emotionally invested. So when we can't make you happy, it does feel a little bit personal at certain times,
Oh, it
especially
hurts.
in the beginning.
It hurts.
Yeah. You're like, damn, dude, we really did everything we could. And
Yeah.
They still despise us.
Well, it's one of those things, like I do a lot of work in new builds. The amount of sawdust that builds up in a window frame, you would have no idea. And it's soap and water installs. And we use a lot of water and a lot of soap to wash those windows. And we try to flush it out as best you can. Ultimately, some of those builds, you can't get it all out.
Yep.
There's going to be little specks up in the corners and stuff because gravity works against you.
Yep.
It just washes out.
That's a frustrating
Yeah.
part. That's a very frustrating. And that's the attention to detail
Yeah.
that you were talking about.
Yeah. But ultimately, you notice it at first because you look for it.
Yeah.
Most people, when they're looking through the window, you step back and you look at your window. You're not looking at your window. You're looking through your window. You're looking in the distance. You're looking at the view of your home, as long as it's not your neighbor's.
Yeah.
But
if it is, then you need some security.
Yeah, exactly. We can put some tint on there.
Yeah.
We can put some security. We can put some decoratives. We got all kinds of options for you. Switchable film. You can turn it on and turn it off.
Oh no,
I have
cool.
graphics. You can run graphics
like on the
it.
shower.
Yeah.
Like the turn off and turn
Yeah.
off, like fog.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I have one that you can hook up imaging to and put like digital messaging through.
Oh, nice. So a business could do that
Yes.
on like an internal window or screen or whatever.
Yep.
That's very cool. So for the future business owner, what's 12 months ago? What's one thing you wish you would have known 12 months ago that you know now? It can be about employees. It can be about customers. It can be about your product, the business, whatever you want.
I would have liked to have told my early self, be careful of all the different marketing angles, all the different companies out there throwing like marketing options at you. We lost some money with Angie's, I would say, unfortunately.
Let's talk about that.
Don't know if everyone,
Yeah.
There's Angie's leads and Angie's ads, and
a lot of people have lost money there.
Man, they come at you with some sales pitches that you don't. As a new business owner, I didn't quite realize what I was, getting into, and very quickly, all of a sudden, I had accidentally signed a form that locked me into a year for about $5,000.
Oh, with Angie?
With Angie's ads.
Oh,
and
dude, that's not on you. There are thousands of business owners. I did the same thing.
So that's what I would say. Just read the fine print because it was very fine print at the very bottom, literally the last line. And
that's their whole model, dude.
Yeah,
this is a great time for me to say that our product, our platform, will not cost anything. There are no long-term contracts to be on.
Right.
The only time you're ever getting charged is if a customer, a homeowner, chooses you. So it is the hottest lead. We're not even calling them leads. We're calling them customers. It's a pay-per customer because we've done all the work to get you there. And then you go out there and you can't sell, that's on you, right? But our job is to get it as close to this as possible. Yeah. And then and only then you're charged. There's no monthly fee. There's no contracts. It's pay as you play. If you don't want to, if you're busy that month, you don't have to use the app, right? We want you to use it when you need it, and it should be a tool, not a burden, which is what all of these other platforms have been.
Which is, well, I'm excited. You guys are local. You're putting a local group together, so it's not like, I want to talk to somebody. You're out in like Denver, doing something.
Yep.
You're here.
Yep.
So I appreciate that, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm excited to be part of it.
And it's soon we'll be in Denver, but it'll be a couple years. But I'll always be here, so you can.
Well, that's the only thing I care about.
Yeah,
is where
exactly.
Gabe is.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's see. I wanted to ask one more question, mainly about business. Your customers, where you're currently getting customers. If we're talking to the future business owner, I think it's important to note Connect and BNI networking groups, just like you said.
Oh, yeah.
What percentage of your business right now is referral based? Do you know? Rough guess?
20%, maybe 20%.
Huge chunk of the business.
Yeah, it's a good percent.
Yeah. Comes from you getting after it.
Yeah.
But it also plays into how we know homeowners are choosing their customers or their businesses, right? Homeowners are finding great businesses through referrals. At an alarming rate.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a lot of research into this, a lot of validation, a lot of surveying homeowners. And when asked, hey, how would you find a handyman right now? Their overwhelming response, over 80%, has been a referral in some form or fashion. Right. So that's either a Facebook group. I'd call my mom and see who she uses, or I'd talk to my neighbor, or I'd call my realtor, right? So homeowners are really looking for who have you used, where are they good, and then they'll use you.
Well,
And that's like part of our platform is we've kind of digitized that process for the homeowner as well.
Referrals are huge. I love referrals. And like nice thing about referral too is if it's a personal referral, somebody's already warmed them up and like can say something about you. So when you're going into it, it's not like, who's this person I found on Facebook?
Right. Right.
There's a lot I bought things on Facebook that I was like, what is this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
I've rented rooms on Facebook, and I got there and saw the room. I was like, whoa, what the heck is this? This is not the same.
Yep.
So and I think a lot of people have skepticism these days. So warm referrals are amazing. And
people don't know how to trust.
Yeah.
And you hear these horror stories, and you're like, oh God, I don't want that to be.
I say not necessarily they don't know how to trust as much as a lot of people get taken advantage of.
Yep. Especially in certain industries. Yeah. Roofing has consistently the worst reputation when it comes to people like that, because they can just take advantage of people, which is horribly sad. But that's also what we're trying to solve with our platform and with doing this and having these conversations. Mm-hmm. These conversations, sure, we want to get great content so we can show all of our users how great our businesses are that are on the platform and how professional and high quality they are. But also we want to kind of change some of the stigmas associated with home services. I think when people think plumber, they have a certain image that comes to mind, and it's very rarely that, right? Yeah. It's we've had multiple plumbers come here and talk about their businesses, and just like you, they've had a slew of other industry experiences, and now they're moving into this business operations stage of their careers, and they've picked a great industry to be in, and they're running their business like a professional. And that's what we are really trying to get in front of customers and potential users and homeowners, to show that, hey, this is what you can expect. Yeah. And it's a different world, and that's changing. And I'll go as far as say, I'll call it right now that I think the home services and owning a business in home services is like the next financial hack. I think it's incredibly, the barriers are relatively low. It's relatively inexpensive. If you're at 20, it's needed. And for as long as I can see, I'm no genius, but even with the advances we're seeing in tech, you're still going to have somebody do the install. Yeah. Right? You still have to have somebody come out and do that piece of it for now, right? Yeah. 50 years, I don't know.
Robots and what cyborgs and all that kind of thing could happen.
Aliens, cool. Yeah. Let's let that happen. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But for right now and the foreseeable future, if I was a 22-year-old, if I was a 18-year-old and didn't want to go to college, I would go apprentice at any industry I could. Yeah. Yep. And I would go learn, and I would tell the business owner, hey, I want to be here for 5 years until I'm 23. And my goal is to learn everything humanly possible about this industry. And I'm going to leave when I'm 23. I'm going to start my own business. Yeah. Just so they know. And for that business owner, think about the employer you have for 5 years. Think about if you had a guy who was like, hey, I want to learn everything from you so I can do exactly what you're doing in 5 years.
Let me throw this out there really quick. Just for that 18-year-old, 20-year-old who just got out of high school. Yeah. Don't go straight to college. Yeah. That's crazy. Don't take on all that debt. Take on some debt if you want, but go travel the world for 2 years. Go meet people around the world, see how other people do things, figure out what you want to do, and then come back and start living your life. Yep. Have some experience under your belt.
Yep. And there's ways you can do that for super cheap.
Yeah.
And and you get a ton of experiences, and that's really important for people who live, maybe in some small town somewhere. Oh, there's nothing wrong with being from a small town. I'm from a relatively small town. Same. I would love to go back and live there.
Cop.
No problem. Exactly. Yeah.
One shore.
Don't care. That's awesome. That's a great way to live. But it's even better if you can go out and experience some other stuff first. Like you did. Yeah. Australia, New Zealand. What's the biggest takeaway you've learned from living out of the States?
I mean, shoot. There's more than one way of doing something. You go over. They speak different. They do things different.
And that's all right.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
There's more.
It opened your mind.
More than one way to skin a cat. I don't know if we can say that. Is that PC these days?
That's fine. Yeah.
But in New Zealand, they got weed. So we got weed eaters here, right?
Yep.
They got whippersnippers.
Yeah. They call them whippersnippers.
Whippersnipper. Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah. I think it's just a great name.
Yeah, because I say weed eat. My wife says weed whack.
Yeah. Weed whacker. Weed eaters. Weed whackers.
Yeah.
Whippersnippers.
Whippersnippers?
Yeah. You know?
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I think that's super valuable, man. It also adds perspective. When you've had a bunch of, experiences outside of your hometown or outside of your job or your family or whatever it is, then when you get into, like you said, 2 or 3 years later, you decide what you want to do, you start your career, you go to college, whatever. Yeah. It's like, all right, I've got some perspective on things. I'm not 18 years old. I've done some stuff. Because if you don't do it then, life starts to kind of add up and you run out of time to do it.
They say, life is short. So don't spend a bunch of time in the front end doing something you're not going to want to do in the future.
Yeah. Exactly right. So go to Australia.
Yeah.
Work with an HVAC company there.
Yeah.
Go to New Zealand. Work with an electrician.
That's right.
Come back to the States.
That's right.
Work with a couple more. And then you've got your training.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
I mean, they deal with a little different voltage over there on the other side of the pond, but
Yeah. But
it translates over the same.
Exactly right. Just don't touch that.
Yeah.
Last thing, dude, is there any information you want direct to your customers? Is a good example I usually give is like, in restoration, I always wish that homeowners genuinely knew that time's not on their side and that we need to get in there as quick as possible. Or it's going to get worse. Is there something you kind of wish every homeowner knew about your industry before you got there?
Yeah, generally, most people don't even realize, for one, they can put window film on their home.
Yep.
And it'll actually improve their view, improve their energy efficiency of their home, and actually give them, so like we have all these cameras in front of us. It's dynamic range. How much light can a lens actually see and expose for properly? Our eyes are essentially great lenses. They're very capable of taking, the sun's light and our home's darkness and translating the two, but it is processing it.
Oh, interesting.
If you put some window film, it can be light film. It doesn't have to be very dark at all. You can put a little bit on your window. It's going to make your outside, the greens in your yard pop more. The clouds are going to be, you're going to see your clouds. It's not going to be like white space out there. You have less eye strain. Just, in general, it makes your space better. You can actually see in your home better because your eye isn't like overexposing for the exterior and trying to meet what your interior looks like.
Do you have, like, when you go out to do the assessment, do you have like something you can put in front to show what it would look like?
So I take samples. So generally when I show up, I bring samples up. I kind of talk to the customer. There's like levels of like how much tint I think is acceptable for residential and how much I think is acceptable for commercial. Ultimately, I let the customer can decide. So I'll put up some stuff. They want darker, I'll give them darker. They want lighter, I'll give them lighter.
Yeah. So
we just work through it. I have transitional film, which, as the sun hits it, it's UV activated and it darkens, just like transition glasses.
Cool.
And the sun goes away, it lightens back up. So like you could have, western facing windows and in the afternoon just have a little bit darker windows in a little more comfortable space so you can watch the game, not have glare all over your TV.
Oh, cool. Oh, dude, this is all right. So, at night, if you have your, the blinds are not closed, shutters aren't closed, so you can see right in. Everybody's house is very visible.
Yeah.
You can see right in. Does some of your films stop some of that at night?
Unfortunately, no.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
We need to create that.
You got switchable film. You turn it on. You can turn it off. That's a very expensive way to go.
Okay. But that would do it.
That would do it. But you can't see out your window. But ultimately, at nighttime, how much are you
you can't really see.
You close your blinds anyway. You're not really seeing out your windows anyway.
Right.
So ultimately, I say, during the day, window film.
Mm-hmm.
You can take the glare out. You can have privacy. People really can't see into your home very well going with the right type of film. You can remove IR heat, better energy bill, and then at nighttime shut those blinds, shut those curtains.
Yep. Yep. Good to go.
Decorative films. You can go decorative films, but once again, frosts and whatnot. You're stopping visibility out, and you're stopping visibility in. So
okay, gotcha. Well, dude, we're running out of time, but I genuinely appreciate you coming in. I appreciate the friendship over the year. 2 years, maybe a year since we've known each other.
I think we passed a year. Sure.
Yep. Through BNI and all that stuff. And I respect the hell out of what you're doing, dude. I know how hard it is to start and run a business. There's a lot easier paths, but that's boring.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you're doing, and it was really cool learning about your background, dude. I had no idea that was where you came from. So thanks for coming in, brother.
Appreciate
Sorry,
you.
my hand's sweaty. It's hot as shit in here.
Yeah, it's a little warm.
But appreciate you.
Yeah. Hey, my home. I'm excited. Cool view.
Boom.